You're listening to Product-Led Revenue, brought to you by Correlated. In each episode, you'll hear first-hand advice and tactics from SaaS, sales, and revenue leaders about using product signals to drive expansion and revenue growth. Let's jump in.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Product-Led Revenue. I'm Breezy Beaumont, and this episode is brought to you by Correlated, a customer expansion platform for B2B software companies that focus on product-led growth. Today, our guest is Jason Rozenblat, Vice President of Sales at CallRail. Jason, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So to give our audience some background on yourself, can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Sure. I'm the head of sales, VP of sales here at CallRail. I've been with CallRail since the beginning of 2019. And I lead all of our sales channels right now. So our SDR teams, our account executive teams, and account management teams.
Cool. And so for anyone listening who maybe doesn't know what CallRail is, do you mind giving some background on the problem that you're helping to solve?
Sure. So CallRail offers a couple of different products, a couple of different solutions. It really started with one product solving a very big problem for marketers, which was to solve what is happening with my marketing. I'm spending all this money. What is actually working right now? So a call tracking platform that would allow you to basically understand what sources of advertising or marketing are driving leads into your business. And since just being a one-trick pony, we've evolved and we now have 3 additional products. Another solution that allows you to track any incoming forms from any of your websites, and also a conversation intelligence product which transcribes any calls coming into your business, which lets you understand what's happening on the phones and tie that all back to the different marketing sources, so you have a full understanding of how well your marketing is performing for you. And last year we actually launched our 4th product, which is a VoIP solution, a soft phone solution called Reactive. So you're able to take calls, make calls, send and receive text messages, all within the CallRail platform. So in theory, you can have a full soft phone solution, be able to take and make calls, all the inbound calls that are coming in from your business, all the inbound forms coming in from your business, all in one solution with CallRail.
You guys really do it all. Very cool.
Yeah.
I want to just dive exactly. I want to dive right into it here. So on your website, there's a button for free trial.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind just walking me through what happens after you click that button? What information are you collecting? And what's that process look like for the end user?
Yeah, so we have always been trying to make the most frictionless process possible for someone to start a free trial of our product. Our founders very much believe in the product-led movement and letting the product do all of the talking, and the ease of use, ease of setup, and that starts with a free trial experience. So when you come to our website, the free trial sign-up process is very easy. It's name and email address. We're going to send you a verification to your inbox on the email that you provided to us to make sure you're real. And after that, once you verify that, you're in the platform. You get 14 days for free. No credit card is required. That's another really important piece. And you're able to go into the platform, navigate. It's very intuitive. It's designed to be very intuitive, user-friendly, so that anyone can go in there, whether you're a one-person shop, small business owner, or you run marketing at an agency for several different clients and it's a more sophisticated solution. It's really designed for anyone. But at any point, if you sign up for a free trial and you get stuck or want some additional help, that's really where the sales team comes in. It's more of like a support function or an implementation function where we are there to assist you throughout that 14-day trial process to make sure your account is set up properly. We can demo any of the products or features that you need or have questions about, or just answer any questions, troubleshoot anything that you may you may be struggling with.
Yeah. So does the sales team then have some insight into how folks are using that free trial, and what are some of those signals that you all are taking action off of?
Yeah, this is something that is still relatively new for us. Really understanding how the customers, or not even customers yet, but someone that has started a free trial is actually engaging with the product or how involved they are. So we look at it a couple different ways. Someone may come in, start a free trial, and immediately enter their credit card. That's like a great sign. That means that there's a very, very high probability that they are going to convert into a customer at the end of those 14 days. Then you have the customers that, or a prospect rather, that comes in, starts a free trial, and is very engaged. We see product usage. We see obviously some basic things like when was the last time they logged in, how many different people have logged in and created, user profiles in the platform. Have they set anything up? We're able to see, how many phone numbers they've provisioned, whether they've installed code on their website to start tracking, incoming calls from their website from different paid sources. So we're able to see all that and get have some of that visibility. So you may have someone that comes in, doesn't enter a credit card, like I said, and they're using the product, and that's a really good sign for us to understand how to engage with that prospect during those 14 days. It may not be as, I wouldn't say heavy-handed, but the message is going to be different to that prospect that's already in there and using things, and say, hey, I see you're already in there. You've set things up. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you out during the 14 days. Then you have a whole other bucket of people that sign up for a free trial and they either haven't touched anything yet, which is obviously a red flag, or the way we handle those free trials, and we use outreach. So the sequences we use in outreach with that prospect is completely different. Like, hey, let me help you get started. And then there's the in-between of those, which is they have probably logged in, done a couple things, and probably got lost somewhere, or got distracted, or what, we don't know, right? Like maybe they got discouraged, and the message there is different. So we're getting data back from our app, and it's feeding into Salesforce, and then it's feeding into outreach, and it's guiding the sales team on how to reach out to these prospects and the messaging that they should be delivering during that 14-day trial.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few of them, but what are some of the tools that you all are using either to collect that data, or where is the sales team digesting some of it? It sounded like Salesforce is maybe one of the primary places, but there's probably a few other tools along the way.
Yeah, so right now, the majority of that usage is coming directly from our app, and then that data is filtering into a couple different places. We're getting data into Pendo, so we have a lot of in-app experiences that are created custom to the way that someone is interacting with our product. That data is feeding directly into Looker, so that we have visibility into how customers from different industries are using the product, and are they onboarding themselves properly? Like, how much do we need to, like, it guides a lot of the decisions that we make on different types of messaging in app. And then also, a lot of that data is pumping from the app directly into Salesforce, and then from Salesforce into outreach. So we're always trying to figure out additional ways to get more data out of the app and into either product marketing's hands, or product's hands, or sales hands, or success. Like, we're always looking for ways to understand how the users, like what they're doing in there, and how we can help them better, basically.
Got it. And one thing along the way that I think is really interesting is you're using outreach as a way to kick off sequences. It sounds like based on how people are actually using your product. What do those sequences look like?
Yeah, so 14-day free trial. So not everyone is providing us with a phone number. Sometimes we have contact information for these prospects. Sometimes we don't. So Some of the sequences may include calls, some don't. Some may be just email only. So we do some research. We try to find them on social, mostly LinkedIn, obviously. We have an SDR team that will try to enrich the free trial as much as possible when it comes in. But assuming it's someone that comes in, signs up with a corporate email, we're able to figure out who they are. We're able to find their phone number, or they provide their phone number. It's already a name or a lead that was in our database, for example, in Salesforce. Those sequences will generally start off with, pretty light touch in day one, maybe a call and an email as mainly an introduction, like, hey, Breezy, this is Jason with CallRail. I see you signed up for a free trial. Here's some resources to get you started. Here's my Calendly link if you want to schedule an implementation call, or like it's a 15-minute implementation call, 30-minute demo if you want to dig into any of these products. But feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at all. I'll check back with you in a couple days. So it's a pretty light touch. We don't want to be too invasive. We want them to get into the product and figure things out on their own. And then we kind of let them guide us on how they want to interact with a human. Like there are a lot of people that come in and there's the expectation that they're not going to talk to anybody. Like, it's a pretty straightforward product. It's not too expensive. Like, it's month to month. I don't need to talk to anybody. I can figure this out on my own. So for that prospect, like, they don't want to talk to anybody. We're not going to force them to talk to us. They're totally fine on their own. But we want to at least provide that level of support. So the steps that follow after those first couple of touch points are really dependent on whether what happens a couple of days in. Like, are they still not doing anything in the app? Have they done anything to set up their account? Have they been responsive at all? So it's very reactive and dynamic based on what is actually happening in real life with the free trial. And we found that has led to a much better experience for the prospect. When, again, we're trying to meet them where they are and create a great buyer experience. Hopefully, they're buying the software at the end of the 14 days. But it's not like we're not trying to sell them anything. We're just trying to make sure that we can get them to that point where they can make that decision on their own. And for us, I think the biggest opportunity is, like, as a whole, not just the sales organization, but like from a product development standpoint, from a product marketing standpoint, user experience, user interface, everything is, how can we have as many of these customers convert completely on their own and get and see the value immediately and self-select the right plans, do it all on their own. Like, that's a great situation. I would love to have sales just work on the situations or the scenarios where someone really needs additional help, like more custom solution, custom pricing, a more in-depth demo, something that's not like ordinary or out of the box.
Yeah, and you know what? You're touching on this topic that has come up in a lot of my conversations recently, which is around the idea of customer success and sales, those roles sort of converging as we go into the future. I think it's especially true at product-led companies, as you've seen yourself. But I'm curious your thoughts on that in general and how that's played out for you all.
Yeah, so success has kind of been this like evolving thing at CallRail, where the team has grown in size. The purpose of success has evolved as well. So it's not just the team size, but actually like their involvement, their seat at the table. I think historically they were sort of viewed as glorified support. So like a level of support for larger accounts and larger for CallRail terms. It's all relative, right? So like most of our customers are SMB and mid-market, and then we have some enterprise customers, but we would basically say like, oh, who has the highest MRR? Let's draw a line in the sand. You're now going to be given a success account or a success rep. And we weren't really taking into account potential size of an account. And we never really quite understood or had clearly defined like what the success rep actually, like what their job was to do. They, and still to this date, it's not a revenue driving organization directly. Like they're not responsible for, they don't have a quota. They're not responsible for renewals or anything like that. We're month to month primarily. So they're not really responsible for any, metrics as far as that's concerned. Indirectly they are, but as far as like anyone on the team carrying an actual quota. So what has happened though is we've created a much tighter relationship with the revenue organization, where the leader of the customer success team over there, his name is Josh White, our senior director of customer success, is really all about transparency and reporting and being able to share a lot of wins where someone from the success team uncovered an opportunity for an account to grow. Really just focusing on having conversations with these accounts and uncovering these opportunities organically instead of like trying to shove things in their face. Because the customer success team does not sell things themselves directly to customers, they're uncovering these opportunities and then passing them over to someone on my team, so that level of trust never gets violated, I guess, where the customer never is like, oh, customer success rep, what are you going to try to sell me now? So it's created a really nice relationship between the customers and the customer success reps, and then also the customer success team and the revenue team, where there's that relationship, and like customer success reps can tee up one of my reps with a customer that is interested in trying one of our additional products or upgrading more licenses on one of the products. So, but yeah, this is new for me. That type of function or that type of role for success in an organization. Anywhere I've ever been before, I've always seen success own a number. Like they own renewals, they own churn, they own upsell, they own some sort of a number, and that's not the case here at all, which is, it's been refreshing, I would say, but definitely an adjustment, and it took a while to get us here.
Yeah, that makes sense on the handoff between customer success and sales. I actually really like that approach. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I'm curious too, is there, a divide, or maybe divide's the wrong word because it has this negative connotation, but is there kind of like a split across the sales org as well, that, you have the folks who are using some of this product usage data and who are in this customer is leading the way, but do you also have a named account reps, or a more traditional sales org, I guess? Is there some sort of split there for your team?
So the structure of the sales organization now is, so we have our SDR. We have two different SDR functions. One SDR function, because we get so many free trials and a lot of inbound leads, it's sort of traffic control. So we have a lead response team that is taking all these inbound leads. We have a lead development team that's more of a traditional SDR, outbound SDR function, that's working on all the engagement leads that are being driven by the demand marketing team. And then we sort of split up the sales teams based on new business versus account management. So like account executives versus account management. But then the account executive teams, there are three of them. They are split based on verticals, based on industries. We did an analysis a few years ago, and we know that certain industries that we work with have a significantly higher LTV than other industries that we work with. So we basically are putting our best, most tenured reps on the higher LTV industries. So we route all the leads for those verticals directly to certain reps. And then sort of our lower LTV verticals will give to our more junior account executives that have just sort of moved up. From an account management side, there are two different functions. One is more of like a partner account manager role. So we have a partner program. Predominantly it consists of advertising agencies. And at that point, it's they have a portfolio, they have a book of business of different agencies that are in the partner program, the CallRail agency partner program. And those account managers, their job is to within their portfolio to generate new revenue, and that's generally through like Breezy's advertising. If you're bringing on new clients onto CallRail, that's new revenue. Breezy's advertising, if you have existing clients on CallRail, if they are adding new products, that goes towards their book as well. And then we have a large team dedicated specifically to selling back to our existing customer base, cross-selling and upselling back to our existing customer base. And it's not named accounts. It is it's purely reactive, based off of a lot of this usage data, right? Like, so if we know that a customer has call tracking, one of the 4 products, and we take a look at a ton of different variables. We look at how much money they spend with us a month, how long they've been with us, whether they have the other products or not. We look at their industry. We look at some other product usage data points that help us determine whether we think they might be a good fit for 1 or 3 of the other products. And there's a certain level of outbound efforts to those existing customers, but we also generate a lot of marketing qualified contacts, MQCs, engagement MQCs, and hand raisers that will, say like, yeah, you know what, I do want to try this additional product. So we have a lot of in-app messaging through Pendo to try to drive trials that way. And then we do a lot of in-app messaging to promote account reviews, which drive a lot of leads for that team that sells back to base. So uncover to see if those customers can leverage any of our additional products.
Yeah, it's really interesting how you all have divvied it up. And one of the points you talked on there as well was the idea of scoring. So I think you were calling it contact scoring, MQCs, lead contact, whatever we want to call it. But I'm curious what your scoring looks like, and if you are using like sort of like 2 different funnels over there, maybe one for the MQCs and one for PQCs or something like that.
Yeah, so we do. This has been a work in progress. Our top of funnel stuff, I think we've gotten refined pretty well from like an MQL standpoint, especially on the engagement side of things. So we have hand raisers. So it's like, I started a free trial, I immediately score up. A request, a demo, or it's a contact us form, or through our chat tool, it's 100% or 100 points automatically. We use Marquet. On the engagement leads, it's a mix of firmographic, demographic, but also behavior. And that process, like, we feel really good about. The MQC side is definitely sort of like product qualified. Like, we just call it MQCs. But in other organizations, it could be viewed as product qualified. So we are looking at a couple of demographic and firmographic data points to score up. But a lot of there's attribution that we're scoring for. Did they visit specific landing pages on our website? Did they attend a product specific webinar? So if we have 4 different products and they're on one, they've only purchased one, we are going to score for the 3 additional products individually. So we've gotten to a very refined science to figure out, like, okay, they continuously seem to be showing indications that they are a good fit for conversation intelligence, whether it's because they keep visiting that pricing page or a certain landing page on our website, or they are generating a certain amount of minutes per month, whatever the case might be. So some of it is product related, some of it is stuff that they're doing digitally through our assets. So they may score up specifically for that one additional product, which allows for a much easier conversation. Instead of saying, hey, are you interested in products? It's like, hey, like, we'd love to tell you a little bit more about our conversation intelligence product, show you a demo. So yeah, we meet on a monthly cadence. across different functions in the revenue organization. And we look at the previous month at dozens of different data points that attributed to scoring for just different data points that obviously for like different scores, like things as little as 1 point to 5 points to as high as 50 points or 100 points. And we track the conversion metrics all the way through. Like we saw that 40,000 leads scored up for like this data point last month. And 10% of them converted to free trials or whatever the case might be. So we're looking at it on a monthly basis, and we this past month I think was the first time in a long time where we didn't adjust any scoring, which is awesome. Or I don't know what to call it. I mean, like normally we're like, okay, we think this is too high or this is too low or whatever. Like we also have a constant feedback loop. We use Slack, and there is a lead feedback channel where all my reps are in and all the demand marketers are in, and reps in real time are providing feedback to the marketing team to say like, hey, this was a really great lead. So instead of just like crapping all over marketing, like instead of saying, hey, you sent me more bad leads, it's not just that. It's also like, this was a really great lead. This just scored up. They were using all these different features and functionality in the app. Like, let's recreate this. So instead of the product marketing and demand marketing trying to start from scratch, they're always getting like really good feedback directly from the sales team.
Yeah, that's a great way to have a constant feedback loop and solving, or at least attempting to solve the big struggle of sales and marketing alignment.
Yep.
So I think as long as your culture obviously can support that open conversation, that's a really smart way to go about it.
Yeah, I think I would say that one of the benefits of having sort of sales and marketing under the revenue umbrella, I report directly into our chief revenue officer, and I lead the sales efforts, but I have counterparts on the marketing side that all report under the same function, the same revenue umbrella. Having the teams align is like, for the last, I don't even know, like 7 or 8 years, I've only worked in organizations that there is that type of alignment. So all these horror stories that I hear about of like sales and marketing like battling each other, I fortunately have not experienced that. But I can tell you that it is awesome not having those conflicts. Like, it's really great having a really good partnership with marketing and product marketing as well, like demand and product marketing both. We rely on them very heavily.
Yeah, and previously you were in a more traditional sales role, not at a product-led company, right? Can you tell me about what that swap was like for you to move? Because the sales role is very different at two different types of companies. I mean, there's a lot of similarities, but I think it's also incredibly different. So I'd be curious to hear what that experience was like.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's completely different. And I think that there are way more differences than similarities. I think from a similarity standpoint, there are some obvious ones, like a sales rep has a quota and they have to close deals to hit the quota, and there's you're still doing some type of a discovery and solution selling or fact finding and trying to understand which products fit, and there's levels of objection handling. But one of the most stark differences is the sales team doesn't really have to cold call. I mean, they're given leads, like whether it be a free trial or a demo request, all day long. And like I remember my first sales job, like those leads would come far and few in between, and when they did, it was like, hell yes, let's go. And like you would treat that lead like gold. And before you mark that lead closed loss, you would call it like a billion times to make sure they really weren't interested, because they were so rare. Like the majority of the time, you're just like cold calling and dialing for dollars. And now the onus is on, like at that point, marketing has to deliver, but it is very much a situation where we are obsessive over conversion rates in a good way, obsessive over conversion rates, and looking at it from so many different angles, whether it be by rep, by team, by industry, and we're analyzing things all the way down to like, what effect does rep PTO have on conversion rates? Like that's the level we're at right now. So much so like that I had an epiphany like 2 or 3 months ago, where we would not, and as I say this out loud, I'm like, why didn't I think of this before? We would not assign that, like, all right, Breezy, you're going on vacation next week. Awesome. I hope you enjoy yourself. We're not going to give you any leads while you're out. And that's the way we used to do it. And what I actually found out was the issue wasn't like not giving you leads when you were out. It's the week that you're out, all those trials that are expected to close, if you're not there to reach out to them and like try to get them across that finish line, no one is there and conversion rate drops. And it hit me and I was like, oh my God, like what, like it was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, okay, so it just reshapes the way that we think about lead assignment now in PTO. Like we're very flexible culture here where I remember like in 2019, before the world fell apart with COVID, like the sales organization specifically was like, you know, the rest of the company has unlimited PTO and we don't, and like we're in sales, so it's like harder for us to take time off. So I created a process, a policy around like quota relief. You could take quota relief 2 times a year, 1 time per half, basically half 1, half 2. And if you gave us 2 months notice advance so that we can prepare for it. So like we could figure out what to do with your leads and we would give you up to a 25% like quota relief basically. So we would look at how you performed at the end of the month. And if you know, let's say you finished 75% to goal, we would automatically put you at 100% to goal. Like it wasn't intended for you to blow your number out, but it was at least intended to get you to that 100% mark. So all this was done with really good intentions, and that policy was very well received by the sales organization. And I think especially now with like COVID, I think it's even more important for mental health breaks and people being able to take that time off without the stress, especially in sales, but not doing it at the cost of like hurting the business. And, you know, and when I figured out that it wasn't like the week that they were gone, like don't assign them leads, but it's like the week that they're gone, like when trials are closing, that level of, that's the type of stuff that we're looking at. We're looking at every possible angle and every different way, every different factor or variable that could impact conversion rates. That's just one example. But yeah, like the conversion rate piece is definitely something that's very new to me. I've never looked at the demand waterfall as much as I did as in this role. In previous roles, I knew a demand waterfall existed. I saw it, you know, once a month or 2 months. Like it was just like a thing, but I didn't really care about it. I just knew the leads were coming in, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But now like I am in there like all the time. We're looking at weekly cohort performance in Looker. Like we just did this crazy thing, and I uncovered something else yesterday where I dedicated one of my sales reps specifically to call on expired trials. It was a treasure trove of leads there. And we have nurturers and stuff like that, but like to have a rep call these expired trials, we're able to flip another like 50 to 100 customers a month just by calling on expired trials. And we started this in July, like early July, and it was working well, but the conversion rates for the team started looking crazy. And what we didn't realize at the time, and we just figured this out yesterday, we were reassigning these leads to this rep. Her name is Chanel, and it was skewing all of our conversion rates for the teams because all these trials were getting taken out of reps' names after they expired, and all of a sudden her conversion rate was in the toilet, and all these other teams were like converting at like 90%. And I'm like, okay, we broke everything. We have to fix this now. But yeah, like that is the biggest difference for sure. Just the volume of inbound, but also just the obsession over the demand waterfall on all these conversions and looking at micro and macro factors. Like we look at all of it and we look to optimize all of it. It's fun.
Yeah, I think one of the big differentiators there is just that your quantity of everything is so much higher, right? Like the quantity of people getting into your product and doing that trial, and the quantity of people doing this, that, and the other. And that happens to be something that's across a lot of self-serve or product-led or, free trial companies. And so I think what that does is it gives you a ton of good data, which obviously you have to then take the time to sort of dig through it, which is one of the things we're obviously trying to help sales teams with over at Correlated.
Yep.
But it gives you all of this data that is actually more statistically significant, or like something that you could actually confidently take action on, because it's a little bit harder if you're, an enterprise sales company and you close 10, 15 deals a year. It's hard to take action off of what happened in those 10, 15 deals when it's, a totally different ball game there. So, it's interesting to have taken that swap and see the product-led data all dive in. And clearly you guys are focused on conversion rates and optimizing everything along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating world. Like, the ability to your point, have so much data to analyze is awesome. Like, it's so exciting, and there's so many things to uncover in there. Whereas if you're selling a larger solution or a more expensive solution with a longer sales cycle, you're not going to get as much data and as quickly. And obviously the trade-off is, like, we're talking about an ARPU of like $100. We're not talking like $25,000, $30,000, $50,000 deals or six-figure deals. That those come far and few in between. So it's very transactional. And like I was having a conversation the other day with a good friend of mine who leads a team of enterprise reps, and he's like, yeah, we're working on $1 million deal, and I'm like, I'm working on a $60,000 deal, and that's like a big deal for us right now. But I have a lot of those.
Yeah.
But the ability to have that much data allows you to make changes and learn like very quickly, like fail fast. And one of my favorite quotes is, "You win or you learn." So things are going well, and like we want to know why it's going well. Or if something isn't going well, like you learn from it as quickly as possible. You're like, okay, what did we break? How do we fix it? How do we what's plan B? So yeah, I mean, I love this world, the product-led world, and I'm excited. I joined mainly because the product-led revolution. I'd be curious to get your take. Like, when did you think it started? Like, when did the wave? Like, when did it really start to take off?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the wave of everyone actually talking about it and giving a name to it was like fairly recent in the last few years.
Yeah.
But then you look at some companies like Atlassian and other folks who have been doing this for such a long time,
Yeah.
that I feel like they were just under the radar. And then all of a sudden we really got to see the financial metrics of all that success. And everyone was like, wait a second, what the heck did they do? And how can we do that?
It's wild. So, I mean, like super timely, but one of the biggest stories in the tech world happened right down the street from us at MailChimp. MailChimp getting acquired for $12 billion. Like, that's insane. And completely bootstrapped company, like really took off on the freemium model, and never had, still to this day, never had a sales team. Like, that's an unbelievable story. Atlassian, very similar, right? And I remember listening to a podcast a few years ago when Slack was really starting to take off, and the Slack CEO was talking about how they viewed sales. And sales, and the way he was describing it at the time was so foreign to me, and it was like this super non-traditional sales model, and it's like, we're there to help out when someone starts a trial, and like we don't really care about like hard selling them or anything like that. And at the time I was in a role that was like, No, like you've got to close. And I'm listening to this, and this is when Slack was really starting to take off. I'm like, this sounds awesome. Like I would love to do this one day. And then I heard a podcast with like I believe she was the head of growth or head of sales at Stripe. Same thing, like the way that they scaled sales at Stripe. And like you're talking about two massive success stories in Slack and Stripe that started with like purely product led and just absolutely exploded and employed a sales model that was very complementary to, and I would almost say like complementary, but almost secondary to just like the product led. And it like, I don't have an ego. I don't think I have an ego. So it was, I think it was good for me, like specifically like for me, like the type of leader that I am to join CallRail. Because if I was like the type of sales leader that's like, yeah, sales is number one, sales led, it wouldn't work here at all. And I don't think it would work in most organizations that have that very much product led focus. So
that's
I don't think
that's
it's
a good
for everybody.
segue into Yeah. That was my question: is what piece of advice would you give to salespeople who are thinking about making this move to a product-led company? So, I guess that's some of what they need to think on. What are some of those pros and cons they should be weighing or understanding themselves?
Yeah, no. So I'll tell you, like, I think that one of the main initiatives that I have is in a situation like, how can we be more proactive with sales efforts? We've been, as a sales organization, so reliant on everything that's coming in. And it's almost like when things are going well, it's awesome. And when things are slowing down at the top of the funnel, like, you can't just sit there and twiddle your thumbs and be like, oh, I don't know what to do. So like, what do we have at our disposal to be able to have like a two-pronged approach while still leaning in very heavily into the product-led approach and relying very heavily on, in a good way, like all the leads that are coming in and ensuring that we're the conversion rates are super high, like our ARPU is really high, that we're doing what we need to do with the leads that come through. But at first I was like, this is awesome. Like, I just sit here and we just get these leads. And the first bad month we had, I felt so helpless. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, how are we supposed to get to this number if we had a little bit of a dip in QLs at the top of the funnel? So I would say that was the biggest adjustment for me, is being okay with that. Where like 90% of the time it's fantastic, but that 10% of the time where you're like, I can't just go out and get like a big deal. Like, I haven't been building a pipeline right now because we've been so busy like taking these leads in that there's no pipeline. I can't go close something right now. So having that like two-pronged approach is really, I think, important to ensure that revenue numbers are hit.
Awesome. So I think we're coming up on our time at the end of this episode. But before we sign off, where should people go to learn more about you and to learn about CallRail?
CallRail is way more interesting than me. So we'll start with that. Just go to callrail.com. Like I'd mentioned, there's a 14-day free trial, no credit card required. But if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on there. And yeah, if you want to demo the product or any of the solutions, let me know and I can get you set up with one of our account execs. But yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. And I love your product. Correlated is awesome. I'm trying to get my product marketing team to take a look at it right now. So really big fan of it and what you all are doing.
Awesome. Well, definitely appreciate that. And thanks for spending some time with us today. It was great having you on Product-Led Revenue. So we'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Product-Led Revenue. This show is brought to you by Correlated. the first platform built for product-led revenue. If you enjoyed what you learned in this episode, make sure to follow the Product-Led Revenue podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or visit getcorrelated.com/podcast to get access to all of the latest episodes.